If a permit decides whether your land has value, then the permit is the asset, not the land. You can buy dirt. You can buy a deed. You can buy property, and then you learn the part they don't put on the listing. The value isn't in the land. The value is in whether the system lets you use it. Because if you need 12 approvals to do anything with something you own, you don't own it. People talk about housing like we ran out of land, like the earth ran out of space. It didn't. What ran out is permission. And I'm not being poetic. I'm being literal. In Los Angeles, one serious data set of multifamily projects showed approval time is a huge chunk of the total timeline, roughly 45% of the nearly 4 years it takes to complete a multifamily project on average. That's approvals eating almost half the calendar before you even get to build. San Francisco is even more insane. One analysis found the typical applicant waits 861 days for a full permit to build a single-family home. That's not construction. That's waiting. And before somebody comments, that's just California, stop. This isn't just LA. This isn't just San Francisco. Rural gets wrecked by this too, just in a different costume. In cities, the gate is zoning boards, design review, hearings, community input, and political veto. In rural areas, the gate is, can you legally put in septic? Can you get water? Can you get a driveway? Can you get power? Can you cross a creek? Can you touch a tree? Can you build without triggering environmental review? Same outcome. Different paperwork. You can buy 10 acres in the middle of nowhere and still be trapped because rural land isn't free. Rural land is a stack of invisible tripwires. Septic alone can decide if your land is real or fake. If you can't get an approved on-site wastewater system, you don't have a home site. You have a campsite with property taxes. And this isn't conspiracy talk. California's State Water Resources Control Board, OWTS policy, makes clear that local agencies, counties/cities, have permitting power over these systems and how they're regulated. That's why people find out after they buy. This land is non-buildable. Not because the dirt can't hold a house, because the system won't bless the septic plan, or there's no legal water, or there's no permitted access, or you're in some overlay you didn't understand. Your deed is real, but your use isn't. And rural isn't just septic. If you need anything involving wetlands, streams, or protected habitat, the process can turn into a multi-year hostage situation. Even the National Association of Home Builders calls out federal permitting as a major delay driver. They point to Clean Water Act Section 404 permits taking upwards of 1 year and ESA consultation taking years. That's not local NIMBYs. That's federal time tax stacked on top of county time tax. So when someone tells you housing is expensive because materials, because labor, because interest rates, yeah, those matter. But this is the part nobody wants to admit. A big slice of the cost is the time tax created by the approval machine. And the machine isn't broken. It's doing its job. Here's what owning land looks like now. You get to own the liability while the system owns the steering wheel. They can tell you what you can build, where you can build, how tall it can be, what it has to look like, how much parking you need, what setbacks you need, what kind of tree you can touch, how drainage works, what the neighbors get to complain about, what character you're allowed to disturb. And if you don't comply, nothing happens. No house, no unit, no value, just bills and a dream you can't use. That's why non-buildable land exists. That phrase should freak you out. Non-buildable doesn't mean the dirt can't hold a structure. It means the permission system says you're not allowed, which means your deed isn't a right. It's a request, and the rich don't have to request. because they have the power to change the structure to fit their needs. They bring the team, the leverage, the connections. You and I bring hope. Same rules on paper, not the same results. Another example where the deck is stacked against real people and control stays at the top. And don't even get me started on property taxes. That's a whole separate video. And the most corrupt part? Two identical parcels can be sitting next to each other, and one is worth dramatically more because one has approvals. Not because it's better land, because it's already been blessed, already been processed, already been granted permission. So again, the permit is the asset. Now you want to know why this doesn't change? Because this system is power. It's a veto machine. It lets existing owners protect scarcity and protect prices. It lets gatekeepers decide what's appropriate. It lets people who already got in slam the door without saying, I want to slam the door. They just say, process. And there's research behind this being a real supply killer, not a conspiracy theory. A study on Los Angeles found that cutting approval time and uncertainty by 25% could raise the rate of housing production by about 13.5%, basically by pulling projects forward instead of letting them rot in limbo. And when projects don't have to go through the discretionary political grinder, when they're by right, they move faster. One paper found by right projects were permitted 28% faster than discretionary projects. So you're not crazy for feeling like the system is designed to stop normal people. It is. Complexity is a filter. Delay is a filter. Uncertainty is a filter. If you're not rich enough to float years of limbo, you're not allowed to play. And this is where it ties into the own nothing, ask for access theme. Because ownership used to mean control. Now it means you hold the bag while someone else holds the authority. You can't own your way out of it either. Because the same permission system doesn't just block homeowners. It blocks builders. It blocks supply. That scarcity inflates everything downstream. Rent, home prices, fees, deposits, insurance, all of it. This is why people are being herded into permanent renting. Not because renting is somehow superior. Because the supply gets strangled, prices spike, and then they pitch you solutions that are really just longer debt, like floating ideas such as 50-year mortgages. That's not making housing cheaper. That's stretching the leash. So yeah, land isn't scarce. Permission is. If you can be told what to do and what not to do on your land, what exactly do you own? You own the taxes. You own the risk. You own the maintenance. You own the liability. You own the waiting. You own the fees. You own the paperwork. But the power, the thing that actually creates value, the permission, belongs to the system. And when people wonder why everything feels like you pay more and get less, this is one of the cleanest examples. They didn't take away ownership with a law that says you can't own. They did it with 1,000 little gates that turn ownership into conditional access. That's the scam. Thank you for watching. This channel looks at how modern systems are designed, how control, incentives, and authority are embedded in everyday arrangements that are rarely described honestly. Understanding those systems doesn't reverse them, but it does restore awareness. I hope this helped you see what's really happening behind the fine print.